Our visit to Vietnam. We traveled first to Hanoi in the northern part of the country, and then to Ho Chi Minh City in the south. Vietnam has a long and interesting history that can be traced back nearly 3,000 years to the Van Lung and U Lac kingdoms. Although evidence of the first humans to inhabit this region dates back to almost 500,000 years. For nearly 1,000 years, Vietnam fell under influence of Chinese emperors, but by the 10th century, the country became an independent kingdom. For the next millennium, Vietnam enjoyed independence, even though there was much internal strife and political infighting between the 15th and the 19th centuries. Vietnamese culture has developed over many centuries from its origin in Dong Son culture with influences from Chinese culture. Although Christianity was brought to Vietnam by Europeans, the majority of people adhere to indigenous religions or Buddhism. Music in Vietnam, particularly Vietnamese classical music, is said to trace back to the 13th century when the Vietnamese captured a Chinese opera troupe. Literature also has a rich tradition of folk literature, and there are samples of written literature dating back to the 10th century. There is even a temple of literature, which was Vietnam's first university built in 1070s. In addition to visiting this temple in Hanoi, we also had the opportunity to visit a number of other sites of historical importance, including museums and parks, markets, and church. We learned a bit of Vietnamese and enjoyed some great Vietnamese food, which we learned to cook as well. And I'll tell you more about this throughout the program.
Xin chào and welcome to Vietnam.
Ho Chi Minh, born in 1890s in northern Vietnam, was a Vietnamese communist revolutionary who became the Prime Minister and a President of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam from 1945 until 1969. He led the Viet Minh independence movement from 1941 onward and established the People's Army of Vietnam as well as the Viet Cong during the Vietnam War. In 1946, Ho signed an agreement with France that would see North Vietnam declared an autonomous state. The agreement was one of the conveniences that allied the two parties against Chinese invaders. Once the Chinese were driven out, the agreement fell apart, and the Indochina War became Ho's force and French broke out. After defeating in French in 1954, Ho regrouped his forces and established Hanoi as the capital of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. In the initial years of the new nation, many reforms were undertaken and all opposition was brutally suppressed. Under Ho's leadership, it is estimated that nearly 500,000 North Vietnamese people died due to the government policies. Ho provided military support to the Viet Cong fighting against the South Vietnamese government, channeling men and supplies through the Ho Chi Minh Trail, which ran from northern Vietnam through Laos and Cambodia into southern Vietnam. Ho died in 1969. His embalmed body lies on display in the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum in Hanoi.
Okay, so we are now here at the Ho Chi Minh Mausoleum. This is where the Ho Chi Minh body is preserved, but unfortunately it is closed today.
While in Vietnam, we also want to learn more about the cuisines of the country. A cuisine that is said to be one of the healthiest cuisine in the world. Vietnamese food is made fresh, and to get the best ingredients, we went with our chef to the fresh market. In preparation for our lunch, we visit the various stalls in the market to select the best produce available, and we purchased vegetables, taste some condiments, and look for fresh fish. Soon we were at my home, the Saigon Culinary Arts Center, to learn about the history of Vietnamese food and what makes it so delicious. Vietnamese food features a combination of 5 fundamental tastes in each meal, and is said to be influenced by the Asian principle of 5 elements. Not only the food supposed to taste good, it also supposed to contain the 5 essential elements for the body's needs. Based on the 5 elements of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. In addition, it is supposed to please the 5 senses of sight, taste, touch, smell, and sound. First, we learn how to please the eye by creating some fruit carvings before we were asked to help prepare the main meal.
Yes. You can see we have a color with you and
While Teal was in charge of roasting the vegetables, Pan had to look after the chicken stock for our soup. Sim had to lightly roast the spice that would be used to flavor our soup. The practice of making spring rolls was quite difficult, using a thin rice noodle, wrapping to hold the fresh vegetables and other ingredients. The most fun dish was the stuffed dough balls. They had to be deep fried. We all got our hands dirty. After all the cooking was done, we enjoyed the food that we made ourselves and were recognized as true chefs of Vietnamese food. After we had learned about Vietnamese food, we spent some time learning about other aspects of Vietnam, including country's economic development and a bit of influence of French colonial rule on the development of Vietnam.
The development of Vietnam, you can see that after 1975, after we got the freedom and the north and the south of Vietnam, we reunited. After the relationship between Vietnam and America become neutralized, and then other countries will come to Vietnam to find opportunities and they invested more in Vietnam and their life become much better. Before the French people came to Vietnam, they invaded Vietnam in 1858. Vietnam was still in feudalism, and the education, a student in the old time, they have to study about moralities, about how to behave well with other people in the society. But rather than studying sciences or modern knowledge. So after the French people, they invaded Vietnam, and it caused the differences, and it changed the way that we study. We focus more on sciences. And of course, sciences helps us to develop our life. The population in Ho Chi Minh City is officially is less than 10 million people. But in reality, most of the people believe that it can be around more than 10 million people, maybe 11 million people. But 100 years ago, when the French invader, when they make a master plan for the whole city, and the infrastructure is just enough for about 2.5 million population. But after 100 years, the population moved up to 11 million people. So this infrastructure cannot meet the demand of 11 million people. The development of the population, it means the increasing rate is really high, but not for the birth rate, but because of the immigration. People from some other region of Vietnam, they come to the city to find better life or more opportunity. So every year, the average number of the new population in Ho Chi Minh City is equal to one district, about 250,000 newcomers to this city. So the development of the population in the big city like Ho Chi Minh City, it caused many other problem or issue like housing, apartment, and infrastructure, or other public service like schools for students or children, or hospitals whenever someone is sick, right? So all of these public services are overloaded, and people, of course, they criticize, they complain, and the government, they try their best to change, to make it better.
While in Hanoi, we had the opportunity to visit several museums to learn more about the history of culture of Vietnam. The first museum was the Vietnam Military History Museum, which houses a collection of artifacts from the late French colonial period through the Vietnam War era. Opened in 1956, the museum's courtyard holds several American aircraft, including the B-52 bomber and a helicopter, downed or captured during Vietnam War. From the museum, we went to the French prison.
The French colonists came and occupied Hanoi. They moved all of the villager and the old pagoda out of the Bukhan village, and then they built this prison, which is called Hollow Prison. It is one of the largest and most concrete prison in the Indochina at that time. So Hollow Prison was constructed by French colonists in 1896 in the land of Bukhan village.
Before going to the Vietnam Museum of Ethnology, this museum is considered one of the finest museums in Vietnam and focused on 54 officially recognized ethnic groups in Vietnam. In the museum, we learn about the cultural diversity that exists within the country, while also getting a glimpse of some other culture and performance arts from Southeast Asia. Phu made a discovery that directly connects him to an ethnic group in Vietnam, the Black Thai.
So now we are in the model of the Black Thai house, and I have a story about my aunt. She's also a Black Thai, and she told me that the Black Thai are also called Lao Song, which is like one of the tribes in that we saw this name in Lao Museum, if I'm not wrong. And the reason why they call Black Thai because their clothing is in black.
From the Ethnology Museum, we made our way to the Vietnam National Museum of History, which has large display covering different eras of Vietnam's history, and Bam learned about transportation during the Vietnam War. Hello, my name is Bam, and today we are in Vietnam National Museum. Something that I found that is interesting to me is this yoke. Because during the Vietnam War, the soldiers are fighting in this jungle, and you can't use cars in the jungle. So to be able to pull the cannon into the jungle, they use buffaloes and animals. With this yoke to pull the 105mm cannon into the jungle to fight. Having learned about the history of Vietnam, we next visit the product trading company in Ho Chi Minh City to learn about doing business in Vietnam. During our interview with Thai Corp, we learned about some of the obstacles and challenges as well as opportunities for business in Vietnam at present and in the future under AEC.
In my opinion, at first it is difficult as same as doing business, right? It's the same business, but what makes it more difficult is that we have to understand the local. We just could not generalize that what can be sold in Thailand to guarantee the success here in Vietnam. Also, like everybody would take the need to really understand, right, the culture, the behavior, and also the regulation. Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Burma. Vietnam, I would say, is a quite developed country already comparatively to other countries. In Vietnam, the market is quite developed already in the sense that I'm saying if you go to Burma, if you go to Laos, they still rely on imported product. They still don't have so many factories. But here in Vietnam, they have like facility to produce food, packaged product or whatsoever.
The most difficult to do business in Vietnam is not just only selling the product, because the company combined with many people, and then we need all these people, especially for the sales people, to bring the product to selling in the market. Each shop, each market, each province. The most difficult thing is how to take care of these people. Everybody want to expand their business, especially for AEC coming. So then the thing difference before AEC and after AEC is before to import or to selling the product to a different country, you have to pay import tax. So then when you have import tax to import, so then it's a disadvantage to compete with the local company, because local company no need to pay import tax. But after AEC, they have the agreement among ASEAN that we don't have any import duty.
In comparison to Thailand, right, the middle class, I don't know exactly the figure, right, but then the middle class is now the big proportion of the economy already. But here in Vietnam, the gap between the rich and the poor is still high. But here now today is the market is emerging. In the future, the main consumer will be the middle income people.
The country is on the way to developing more. The economy will grow up and then make all the lifestyle have been changing. So then in next 10 years, this country will follow the development same like in Thailand or maybe better than Thailand. Politicians or politics is a difference in Vietnam and Thailand. Thailand is a what we call is a democracy. We have election. We select the people to be the government. But in Vietnam, it's only one political party, what we call is a communist party, that manage and control the whole country. The golden period for Thailand have been passing already. We are not the high-tech country. So then in the last 10 to 15 years, we enjoy how to produce the product and export a lot. But like currently, we see that the export level is become lower and lower because we have the newcomer, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. They have the labor cheaper than Thailand, so then they able become the production base that able to compete Thailand. What I'm feeling now, Vietnam is starting to coming in the golden period, and then the big economy they will be better in next 10 years.
Throughout Southeast Asia, we can see many different types of puppets. In Myanmar, we saw the string puppets, while in the south of Thailand and Indonesia, we can see shadow puppets. In Vietnam, we went to a different type of puppet show, a water puppet show. The water puppets is unique to Vietnam and can be traced back to nearly 1,000 years ago in the north of Vietnam. Traditionally, these puppet shows would be performed in the rice field flooded with water for rice planting season. Today, troops can travel with portable pool or put on performance specially built theaters that have a waist-deep pool. The puppets are controlled by puppeteers throughout bamboo poles and strings hidden below the surface of the water, while the puppeteers stand in the water behind a screen. The puppets are made of wood and can be as heavy as 15 kilograms. Music is provided by an orchestra, and the stories told are generally about daily life in rural Vietnam and Vietnam folklore.
Water puppet show the most. It shows the Vietnam culture and the relationship between people and water the best.
St. Joseph Church. Inside that it have many beautiful view for take a photo.
The museum has a lot of history and a lot of old stuff.
I like the Museum of Revolution because in the museum I learned lots of Vietnam history and interesting facts.
Traffic in Vietnam, I don't know why they use horn every time that when we walk in the front of their car. So terrible.
I did not like the traffic jam and the horn stuff because also the driving in Vietnam, because when we try to walk across and then it's already a green light and they just keep on driving and don't stop for us. Yes, because I want to try more Vietnam food. It's the BBQ pork and soup.
I really like the Vietnam food, especially the noodle pho, because when you eat it, when you can put more of the spice and it makes it more spicy, and you can put the lime to make it more sour, and when you mix it together, it tastes really good.
I would like to come back because I like their culture and water puppet. Sometimes I sleep in the water puppet.